Okay, here are the traits of the Enneagram personality type 6, which is often called the Loyal Skeptic or the Questioner. Now, type 6 is in the thinking types of the Enneagram personality types. There are heart types, head types, and body types. And so 6 is right in the middle of the head types or the thinking types, which means they perceive information in the world through the brain. They think about it, they want to know information, they analyze. That's the sense that they rely on most often. Now, type 6s are called loyal skeptics because there's this dynamic or balance between their being very skeptical and not trusting easily and their loyalty. Let me tell you a little bit more about how that works. So type 6s, they are a fear-based type. They tend to worry kind of a lot. And so in any new situation or person or idea or institution or organization, a type 6 is really going to analyze it. I like to say they have a really strong sketch eye. You know, they have a great ability to sort of discern and look for what's sketchy, what's not reliable, what's unsafe. But you may not always know this when you're talking to a type 6 because they can be very friendly, very hardworking, very social sometimes. So you don't necessarily see this on the outside, but on the inside, they're not going to easily let a person or an idea in without a thorough examination. And sometimes they will even test other people to see if they're trustworthy. They're going to watch you from a distance for quite some time before they really let you in. Now, on the other side of that is the loyalty of the type 6, because it may take a long time to get in with a type 6, but once you do get in, like, you're in, probably for life, because the loyalty of the type 6 can also be an extreme. I mean, sometimes the type 6 will go down with the ship. I can't tell you how many times I have been counseling a type 6 who's been in a bad relationship or a terrible job or some other kind of bad situation for way long past when they should have got out of it. And it takes them forever to get out of it. And here's why. Because type 6s think a lot, like way a lot, like too much. Like most of them would tell you, way too much thinking. They think about their thinking. And so they can see almost any angle on any situation, and they can see the problem and or danger that could come out of any given decision. So sometimes type 6s can get like frozen down or locked in indecision because in their mind, if they choose option A, this thing could happen, but if they choose option B, this thing could happen. And sometimes it can feel like there's no clear, safe answer. Now, the basic fear behind all of this being without support and guidance. And the basic desire is to have security and support, to have something that they can trust, believe in, lean on, and count on. Now, it's really hard to describe type 6s to people because they can show up and look really different. Like type 6s don't necessarily show up in the same way. Yes, they're all fear-driven, but the way they deal with that fear can look differently on the outside. If you can open up their little brains and look on the inside, it's really similar, but on the outside it can look really different because some of them shy away from the things that make them fearful or anxious, and so they tend to be a little more socially anxious or withdrawn or people-pleasing or compliant. And other type 6s tend to go at the thing that's making them nervous head on, and they can seem defiant or oppositional even sometimes. So you can have a really compliant type 6 or you can have like a really oppositional, rebellious type 6. But what's important in the Enneagram isn't the behavior, but the why behind the behavior. And the why behind the type 6's behavior is a desire for security, and they're being driven by a lot of fear. Okay, and now it's time to name some famous type 6s that you may have heard of before. Mark Twain, Sigmund Freud, Edgar Hoover, George H.W. Bush, Malcolm X, Robert F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, Michael Moore, Spike Lee, Marilyn Monroe, Paul Rudd, Sarah Jessica Parker, Ben Affleck, Katie Holmes, David Letterman, Jay Leno, Rush Limbaugh, Chris Rock, the character George from Seinfeld, and the character Frodo Baggins from Lord of the Rings. Now, one last little tidbit that I'll tell you about type 6s is they often have a really good sense of humor. Now, because they think about some really dark thoughts, their sense of humor can definitely be on the dark side. So type 6s use a lot of sarcasm, they respond to sarcasm really well,